So, dear students, today our topic is regarding the body fluids. So, already you know, our body it consists of around 60 to 70% that was made of the fluids. Okay, remaining that may be solid particles, protein, carbohydrates, and as well as the fat. And 60 to 70%, so that was made of the body fluids. Okay, body fluids it is mainly consist of the that is the water, that is 62%, and as well as it was consist of the 16% proteins, then 6% minerals and 1% carbohydrates and 16% of the fat. So this is the basic the components of the human body. So body it is mainly formed by a solids as well as the fluids. So fluid part that is more than two-thirds of the whole body, and water forms most of the fluid parts of the body. So total body, so in our water in our body is that is 45% to 70% according to the body weight. If the body weight is the 70 kg, then the total amount of the water or body fluids is present in our body is a 40 liters. So regarding the adult male, so water content in the adult male is 60 to 65% and solid content in the male is 35 to 40%. So regarding the adult female, the water content in the female is 50 to 55% and the solid materials, so that was in the female that was 45 to 50%. So it means the female will be having the less body water as compared to the male. So due to there is a compositions or presence of the excess of the adipose tissues in the female. So due to that reasons the female will be having the less water as compared to the male. So this is the typical compositions of the human body. So that was consist of 62% water and 16% proteins, and as well as so our body can consist of oxygen, carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, calcium, then as well as phosphorus, then potassium, sulfur, then sodium, chloride, magnesium, many other substances are there. So only 1% carbohydrate is present, then also 16% fat, and the minerals is only compromised 6%. It means the body can consist of maximum 62% of our body. So and average that was the 45 to 75%. So that was made of the waters. So next one, so regarding there is a compartments of body fluids and as well as the distributions of the body fluids. Okay, so the total body water in our body, if our body weight is 70 kg and that person is healthy. Okay, so such kind of person, if having the an and average 70 kg body weight, that will be having the 40 liter, so that of the body fluids. So that 40 liter, it was distributed into the two parts. One is the intracellular fluid, that is also known as the ICF, the fluid inside the cell. Okay, the cell, each and every cell, so that will be having the two environment. One is the outside the cell, that was known as external environment, and another one is a inside the cell, so that was known as the internal environment. Whatever the fluid, so that was present inside the cell, so that fluid is known as the intracellular fluid. Among 40 liter, about 22 liter or 55% of the total 40 liter, so that was present inside the fluid. So that fluid, whatever the fluid, so that present inside the cell or in the cytoplasm, so that fluid is known as the intracellular fluid, or also it is written as the ICF. The total content is 22 liter if we having the 40 liters. Okay, So remaining, that is the 18 liter, so that fluid was present in the outside the cells. Okay, that was known as the extracellular fluid, or also written as the ECF, that is the extracellular fluid. Okay, total, that is the 18 liter out of 40 liter, or about 45% from the total body water, that fluid present outside the cell. And the functions of the cell or activity of the cell, so that was mainly depending upon the changes in the ICF as well as the ECF, or the changes in the intracellular fluid and as well as the extracellular fluid. So those are neurosis the cell, and whatever the cell's functions are there, so they are depending upon the these fluid. And regarding the extracellular fluid, that is ECF, once again it was categorized into different types. That is the first one is the interstitial fluid or also and lymph. That is the total 12 liters or 20% of the extracellular fluid. So that fluid is present between the tissues or between the cells. Okay, the tissues, so they are made of the cells, and between the each cell in the tissues, so they having certain gap. So that gap was known as the interstitial space. Okay, that was known as the interstitial space. So that space it is having the fluid. So that fluid is known as the interstitial fluid, and as well as the lymph that was present in the lymphatic vessels or lymphatic system, that is also the parts of the extracellular fluid or ECF. Then among is, that is the percentage is, there are 20% or 20 liter. So this fluid is major function is, it can neurosis the tissues, it can neurosis the cells. Our life of the cell is also, our functions of the cell is also depending upon the interstitial fluid. And lymph is, it is the extra fluid, so that was left by the systemic circulations. Okay, so that was left by systemic circulations. So that fluid is known as the lymph, and total, there is the interstitial fluid plus lymph, it is present in our body is the 12 liters. Next one is the plasma, nothing but whatever the fluid that was present inside the blood vessels, both, that is arteries, capillaries as well as veins and vanules. Okay, what are the fluid? So that were present inside the blood vessel, so that was known as the plasma. Okay, that is the N and average. The average of the liter of the blood is, that is the 5 liters. Okay, so among 5 liter, so plasma is, that is the 2.75 liters of plasma. So that was present in the inside the blood vessel. So that plasma is also considered as the extracellular fluid. So that is the percentage among the extracellular fluid is, that is 7.5%. And regarding certain fluid, so it was present inside the bones. Okay, so inside the bones are joined sometime, that was known as the synovial fluid. Okay, so that fluid is about 7.5%. So that much of the fluid amount, that means there is a 2.75 liter, that much of fluid, so that was present inside the bone and as well as inside the bone cavity or joints. Okay, so remaining some extracellular fluid, so that was present in the dense connective tissues like a cartilage. Okay, over also certain extracellular fluid is present, so that percentage is 7.5%. And some fluid is present outside the cell, that was known as the transcellular fluid. Then total percentage of the transcellular fluid in the extracellular fluid is a 2.5%. So this transcellular fluid, once again it is subcategorized into cerebrospinal fluid. So those fluid, so that was found in the canal of the spinal cord as well as the ventricles of the brain. So that fluid is known as the cerebrospinal fluid. it is also the considered as a extracellular fluid. The major functions of cerebrospinal fluid is, so they are nourishes the brain and spinal cord and protect the brain as well as spinal cord from the physical as well as chemical and mechanical injury. Also they acts as the shock absorber or heat absorber. Okay, during the stress or more activity, so the more heat was generated in the brain, so that heat was responsible for the breakage of the blood vessels in the brain. That was not happens due to that is the correct percentage of the cerebrospinal fluid that was present in the four ventricles of the brain as well as the canal of the spinal cord. It is also considered as the extracellular fluid. Then another one is a intraocular fluid. So what are the fluid? So that was present in the lacrimal gland or inside the eye. Okay, so that fluid is considered as the intraocular fluid, and this fluid is play important role in the, to protect the eye, or it is helpful for the refractions of the eye, especially it can avoid the dryness of the eyes or components of the eye. That is the main role of the intraocular fluid. So next one, that was the digestive juices that was secreted from the salivary gland as well as from the gastric gland, then intestinal gland, and as well as pancreatic gland. So that juice is also considered as a, that is the extracellular fluid. So that's why the whatever the digestive secretions are there, so those are also the components of the extracellular fluid. So next one is the serous fluid, that is like a intrapleural fluid, then pericardial fluid as well as the peritoneal fluid. Intrapleural fluid, it is the fluid present in the whatever the layers, so that was covered by a lungs. So lungs having the certain layers, and between the lungs layer that was create one cavity, so that was known as the intrapleural cavity that was filled with the fluid. So that fluid is considered as the intrapleural fluid. And next one is the pericardial fluid. The heart is also enclosed by a pericardium. So that pericardium is also responsible for the formations of the pericardial cavity. What is the fluid is present in the pericardial cavity? That was known as the pericardial fluid. Both intrapleural fluid and pericardial fluid, so their major function is, so they are protect the lungs as well as heart. So here the intrapericardial fluid, it protect the heart and it can avoid the overstretching of the heart. And intrapleural fluid, it was play an important role in the inspiration, expression, as well as it can protect the overextend of the lungs. It can avoid the overextend of the lung. That is the role of the intrapleural fluid. So next fluid, that is among the serous fluid, that was known as the peritoneal fluid. So it was present in the abdominal cavity. So whatever the fluid, so that was present in the abdominal cavity, so that fluid is known as the peritoneal fluid. So it is one of the beneficial fluid. So when our body having the dehydrations, or when in our blood vessels the plasma level or water level in the blood, so that was decreases during the dehydrations or omitting, so any diarrhea or any release of the antidiuretic, so the use of the diuretic hormones, so there is a loss of body water is more. So then the blood is more concentrated due to lack of the water. So on that time, so our blood vessels, so they are exchange the fluid. So that of with the peritoneal fluid, so those fluid that was present in the peritoneal cavity or abdominal cavity. So it is one, it can helpful for to manage the plasma concentrations of the blood, and as well as it can nourish the GIT organs, and even it was play an important role in the absorptions of the many drugs. Like insulin, we are administered in the abdominal cavity. So that is the intraperitoneal routes. Okay, or intramuscular route, or certain drugs are there. So those are administered with intraperitoneal, because the rate of absorptions through this route is more as compared to intramuscular and subcutaneous. With respect to IV route, so it is having the good absorption rate, so that's why it is also play an important role in the research regarding the drug administration to know the effect of that drugs. Okay, so what is the fluid that was present in the peritonial cavity or abdominal cavity? So that was known as the peritoneal fluid. So next one, so that was known as the synovial fluid. So that whatever the fluid that was present in the joint, so that was considered as the synovial fluid. Its function is it is acts as the lubrications. It can prevent the frictions of the bones. Okay, certain jelly-like substance is present in the joint, that was the synovial fluid. So this fluid is acts as the that is the lubricants. And here the uric acid is present. If the uric acid level is increases in the synovial fluid, so then only we are suffering from the rheumatoid arthritis, or the joint movement can be blocked, our locomotions can be blocked. That is the importance of the synovial fluid that was present in the joint. It is also considered as the extracellular fluid. So next one is the fluid in the urinary tracts, ovary, fallopian tube, uterus. So they are also having the kidney, they are also having the certain fluid. So that is also account for the extracellular fluid. So like that, so our body fluid, so that was distributed into the different compartments. It mainly distributed into two compartments, that is the intracellular fluid and extracellular fluid. Once again, the extracellular fluid that was further distributed into different compartments like interstitial fluid, plasma, fluid in the bones, fluid in the dense tissues, as well as the transcellular fluid. And transcellular fluid, once again it was redistributed into different compartments, that is the cerebrospinal fluid, intraocular, digestive, serous, synovial, as well as the fluid in the urinary tract. So like that, so our body fluid, so our body water, so that was different distributed into the different components or different parts of the body. So it is also essential to regulate the normal physiology of the organs or normal physiology of the systems or human body. If any variations, okay, if any variation, so that was responsible for to cause the malfunctions of the organs. Okay, so that was for suppose if any inflammations in the cerebrospinal fluid, so then the person was suffering from the seizures or cancers or many Alzheimer, that is the loss of memory, or Parkinson's disease, so many disorders. So that was related to the malfunctions of the cerebrospinal. So that's why, so whatever the normal physiology or normal functions of organs are there, so that was mainly depending upon the, that is the body fluids. And regarding the functions of the water, so the water, it was one main major function is it can prevent the dryness of the organs, and as well as it will be having the various health benefits. So that's why daily you should be consume the water 3 to 5 liters. If you consuming more than 5 liter, then it was responsible for increase the plasma volume, then it was responsible for to cause of the high blood pressure or hypertension. So normally, so whatever the body, when you are feeling the thirst, so then you should be take the water, and at least 2 to 3 glass of water, that is liter, sorry, liter of water per day, so that our human beings can be required to maintain the health. Otherwise, the decrease the water intake, there is alterations in the distributions of the these fluids in the compartment, that was responsible to cause of the abnormal physiology or disorders. So regarding the health benefits of the water, it is acts as the lubrications in the joint, in the eye, in the brain. It is mainly acts as the lubricant. It can prevent the frictions of the organs during the working or damage of the blood vessels in the organs during the more thinkings. Next function, so the water, it was play an important role in the regulations of the body temperatures. So the body temperature, so that was mainly depending upon the water intake and water output. Okay, so if you have in the normal water intake, so then your body temperature is normal. Okay, so that's why in the COVID-19, that body temperature increases, the doctors prefer to you people you can take the more and more fluid, or you can take the plenty of water, because the water having the role in the regulations of the or normalizations of the body temperature by adjusting the thermostat. Thermostat is the one type of thermometer or biological thermometer, so that was present in the brain, in the hypothalamus. Its major function, it can control the body temperature, it can adjust the body temperatures. Okay, then water, it can nourish the cerebrospinal fluid, it can keep the cool of the brain. Then the hypothalamus work in the normal condition, then it was helpful for to manage the body temperatures. So next one, so the body water, it is also help for that convert food into energy. So digestive power of the GIT, stomach, intestine, so that was mainly depending upon the water intakes. If having the lack of water, then you having the constipation. Due to constipation, the digestions cannot be occurs and absorptions cannot be occurs. If the food, carbohydrate, protein, fats is not digested, if it is does not absorb, means then the body will be having the lack of energy or ATP. So that's why, so the correct content of the water after meal, so actually you should be take the water after half an hour of the meal, because that half an hour is helpful for to mix the digestive juice, so that of with the food. Okay, so after half an hour, if you can take the plenty of water, it can enhance the metabolism. So that metabolism is helpful for the generations of the energy. So that's why the water, it can aid the to convert food into energy. And also the water, it is the participant in the process of the digestions, and also the water or body fluids, it is the good for the skin. The skin conditions, okay, dryness or any other conditions, so that was mainly depending upon the water. If you are suffering from the dehydration, then the skin become the too dry. So with the help of the observing the skin, you also monitor the status of the body water in our body. If it is more dry, that can indicate that we having the less body fluids or water, we are having the deficiency for. So like that, whatever the water or body fluids were that distributed in different components, so they will be having the different health benefits or beneficial effects. And body fluids is also acts as the vehicle for transports of the various enzymes, hormones and substances from one place to the another place. So water balance, so already you learned from the in the urinary system in the HAP. So the how the water was balanced. So who is involved? So regarding the RAS system and osmoreceptors or thirst receptors. So those are involved in the regulations of the water or water balance. Simply, so here only we can overlook the water balance. So the water balance, that is the adjustment of the water, okay, through a increasing the intake of water or decrease of the intake of water by a the following phenomena or mechanism. Okay, so when the insufficient water in the body, so that was causes the decrease the blood volume. So as the water intake is decreases, then water content in the body is also decreases. So that was responsible for to decrease the blood volume. So that decreased blood volume is responsible for to decrease the blood pressure. So as the blood pressure is decreases, so that was less blood it can vegetate to the kidney. Okay, due to less blood volume and less blood pressure, less blood is vegetate to the kidney, and the kidney, it was suffering from the one condition that was known as the hypoxia. So due to less circulations of blood towards the kidney, so that kidney is suffering from one temporary condition, so that condition is known as the hypoxia. Hypoxia nothing but deficiency of the oxygen. If less blood vegetated means that kidney it can got the less oxygen, so it can create the one condition that was known as the hypoxia. And hypoxia is responsible for to release of the renin. Okay, So that renin, it can interact with the angiotensinogen in the blood, it becomes the angiotensin 1. Then further angiotensin 1, when it is enter in the lungs through a blood, so where the angiotensin converting enzyme is present, so that can convert the angiotensin 1 into angiotensin 2. So like that, the concentrations of angiotensin 2 in our body, so that was increases. So this increased angiotensin 2, it can stimulate the thrust receptors or thrust center in the hypothalamus. So due to stimulations of thrust center in the hypothalamus, it can increase the thrust. Then also you can feel the thrust or water intake. So then we can take the water in. So like that, it can manage the water content in the our body. So in another side, so as the water level in the blood is decreases, in the body decreases, it can increase the blood osmolarity. So to increase the blood osmolarity, it causes the dryness. So that dryness in the oral mouth, so that can send signal to the hypothalamus towards the thrust center. Or due to increase the osmolarity, so the osmoreceptor was stimulated or detected. So those are present in the hypothalamus. So when the blood osmolarity increases, what are the blood that visited to the osmoreceptor hypothalamus means, so that can detected by the osmoreceptor and stimulate the once again thrust receptors in the hypothalamus. So due to stimulations of thrust receptor or thrust center, they increase the thrust, then we can take the more water. That is increase the water intake. So due to increase the water intake, automatically decrease the blood osmolarity. So like that, so the water can be balanced in our body. If the water is more than normal, then so these signal cannot be generated. Okay, so then the blood pressure is increases. So as the blood pressure increases, it can remove the hypoxia. Then, so there is no renin was produced, so there is no angiotensin 2 was produced, there is no release of aldosterone was taken place, then automatically the urine output is increases. So like that, so the water can be balanced so in our body. So next one, so regarding the electrolyte distributions, so our body fluid, it is consist of the rich of electrolytes. So already you know, so what are the fluid, so that was present in our body, so that was distributed into extracellular fluid and as well as the intracellular fluid. And the composition of the extracellular fluid and intracellular fluid, so that was different. Simply, so whatever the fluid that was present in the intracell, that was known as the intracellular fluid, and outside the cell that was known as the extracellular fluid. Simply phenomena is there. So in the resting conditions, inside the cell, the potassium level is more, and outside the cell, the sodium is more in the resting in the normal positions. So as the cell will be start to work, so the membrane permeability was changes. Then the potassium is exist from the cell and sodium can be enter into the our cell. Then that cell can start to work due to because due to accumulations of sodium, the depolarization occurs. So due to depolarization, the calcium can be released or calcium can be enter into the intracellular fluid. Then due to increase the calcium, the functions of the cell is increases. So like that, so these distributions electrolytes, so that was also reflects or to control. So it was our substance, so that was mainly present in our body fluids is a sodium, calcium, potassium, magnesium, chloride, bicarbonate, phosphate, sulfate, and remaining substance like a protein, amino acid, glucose, lipids, as well as certain oxygen, carbon dioxide, water is present. Okay. So regarding the extracellular fluid, the sodium is rich or more in extracellular fluid as compared to the intracellular fluid. So in the extracellular fluid, so that level is that is around 132 to 142 micro equivalent per liter of sodium present in the outside cell or inside the, that is in the intracellular fluid, but inside the cell it is only 10 micro equivalent liters or 10 micromoles per liter. So that was present in the intracellular fluids. So regarding calcium, it is also rich in the outside the cell, that is around 5 microequivalent liter is present. Then intracellular fluid, that is 1 microequivalent per liter is present inside the cells. And regarding the potassium, it is rich inside the cell, that was required for the resting or largation of cell. Inside it is present 140 microequivalent per liter, and outside that is only 4 microequivalent per liter. So regarding the magnesium, so magnesium is acts as the cofactors for various biochemical reactions, including the glycolysis or beta oxidation. Many where the magnesium is acts as the cofactors for various enzymes. So that magnesium is less in outside the cell, that is only 3 microequivalent liter per liter is present, but inside it was present the around 28 microequivalent per liter. And regarding the chloride, it is also considered as the extracellular fluid ion. In extracellular fluid it is present 103 microequivalent per liter, and inside it is a 4 microequivalent per liter. And regarding the bicarbonate, it was play an important role in the to maintain the pH of the blood. Okay, so it is present in the our pH of body fluids. So it is present in a rich in the extracellular fluid and less in the intracellular fluid. So in the extracellular fluid is present 28 microequivalent per liter, and intracellular fluid it is present 10 microequivalent per liter. And regarding the phosphate, so phosphate is present more inside the cell as compared to outside. In outside only it is present 4 microequivalent per liter, and inside that is around 75 microequivalent per liter. And sulfate, it is also present more in the ICF as compared to extracellular fluid. And regarding the remains, other substances are, it is the proteins, it is also present more inside. Then amino acid, it is more in the inside. Then glucose, outside is more, inside is less. Then lipids, inside is once again I think it is more and outside is the less. Then pressure, oxygen pressure, outside that is the 35 mmHg, and inside in the intercellular fluid that is 20 mmHg. Then partial pressure of carbon dioxide, the extracellular fluid that is the 46 mmHg, and intracellular fluid that is the only 50 mmHg. Then the water, there is a 15 to 20 liter, it is present as in the extracellular that is around 18 liter, and in the intracellular fluid that is 20 to 25 liter, or and in average 22 liter. So regarding the pH, the extracellular fluid having the pH 7.4, it was similar to the blood, and intracellular fluid it will be having the pH 7.0. So this is the electrolyte distribution between the extracellular fluid and intracellular fluid. Basically, the sodium is always present rich in the outside the cell, and potassium is more in the inside the cells. So when the cell will be start to work, so this will be the exchanges, sodium leaving potassium leaving the cell and sodium enter inside cells, then only it is considered as the cell will be involved in the to start the work or involved in the functions, except the functions of the ribosomes. So during the functions of ribosomes, the potassium is more inside the cell and sodium is more outside the cells. But remaining other normal functioning regarding communications or biochemical metabolism, so on that time, so these ratio was increased regarding the nerve conductions or generations of impulses or informations or detoxification process. So where the sodium is rich inside and potassium will be rich in the outside. So like that, so electrolytes, so they are distributed between the extracellular fluid and as well as intercellular fluid in the different concentrations.